Prime Minister Anthony Albanese goes on a WA spending spree and a sure sign an election is not too far away. REA Group weighs up a $9 billion bid for a UK property portal, and the US presidential election is set to break advertising records with Kamala Harris going big on digital. Welcome to Fear and Greed Daily Business News. For people who make their own decisions, it is Tuesday, the 3rd of September 2024. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Adam Lang.
Good morning, Michael. The year is flying.
It absolutely is. And the main story this morning suggests to us that an election, a federal election, Adam, is not too far away because Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is on a bit of a cash splash in Western Australia at the moment in a bid to improve his election standing in the state. He's there with several frontbench MPs as campaigning really does get underway ahead of an election that has not yet even been announced.
That's right, Michael. And the jewel in the crown for this week is a multi-million-dollar job and skills package that forms part of the National Security Nuclear Submarine AUKUS agreement. This will be formally announced today, but it's been widely foreshadowed in the press. There's going to be another $8 million announced for a Murdoch University Plastics Innovation Hub, $250 million for an electric bus terminal, and $8 million for the mobile black spot program. And you can imagine in a state as vast as WA, that can be significant in some electorates. A series of social housing projects will also be announced, according to the Financial Review. The Prime Minister's talking points are likely to include his backing of the mining sector amid accusations that opposition leader Peter Dutton is ready to rework the GST in a deal that works more in WA's favour.
Lots of kind of smallish kind of projects there. And $8 million for a plastics innovation hub, $8 million for a mobile black spot program. They're not huge sums of money. These are very targeted things. Why is WA so crucial right now?
Yeah, it's a great point, Michael. So Labor's prospects in WA for the next election are considered make or break for the federal government. Time is ticking down with an election required before May 2025. In the last federal election, Labor picked up 4 extra seats in WA, and that helped it to secure its majority government position. Current polling shows that Labor increasingly faces the prospect of a minority government. News poll results published yesterday found that satisfaction with Albanese and Peter Dutton have both slumped and that the two are on a pretty even keel. Disapproval for Albanese is up 4 points to 54%, while his approval fell 2 points to 41%. That's the worst result he has had since the last election. Labor and the coalition were tied on a two-party preferred basis at 50% each, which is steady with the last news poll result.
Plenty to still unfold between now and whenever it is.
Probably May. Yeah, Michael, it's neck and neck.
Goodness me. It is going to be quite a... adding this up.
Contested election?
I was just trying to figure out how many months it will be. What, 7 months or so? Who knows?
Well, it depends on when they call it.
Yeah, I know. And really, that's the thing that they all say it's not about the polling, but both sides will be watching these figures so closely, and it will play into kind of when an election is actually called, won't it?
Of course it will. And they've got to do that while making some prediction about the path ahead. So with the current state of the economy, interest rates, cost of living, Michael, it's really hard to pick with any forward knowledge.
Yeah, indeed. All right, enough about politics. Let's take a look at local markets. Yesterday, the S&P ASX 200 closed up 0.2% to 8,110 points with it was a bit of a surprise uptick in the afternoon, reversing the early morning declines and pushing the market pretty close to its previous record high.
Yeah, Michael, financials and energy were the top performing sectors on the day, with banks behind the afternoon surge. Gold, metals and mining and materials all fell pretty sharply, with drops in both gold and the iron ore price weighing down on the market. Jewellery company Lovisa Holdings bounced back a bit today, with shares up 3.1% after seeing a drop at the end of last week, amid concerns about discretionary consumer goods despite solid results. Salary packaging company Smart Group Corporation saw shares surge 5.4%. Bellevue Gold fell 9.1% after posting their results, followed by Red 5 down 7.4%. And this one was really interesting, Michael. Dreamworld's owner, Coast Entertainment, suffered a share price fall of 1.9%. It follows news that an animal handler was bitten by a tiger at the Gold Coast theme park. Drink and pub business Endeavour Group share price fell 1.5%, following Woolworths selling down its 4.1% stake for a net $383 million. That's not a bad return. And REA Group fell 5.3%. We'll have more on that shortly.
Checking overseas markets and obviously Wall Street closed for the Labor Day long weekend in the US, so our attention is drawn instead to China, Adam.
Yeah, Michael, Chinese steel exports are expected to hit an 8-year high by the end of the year, topping 100 million tonnes, with the Financial Times reporting that this would be the highest since 2016 and is bringing vast amounts of low-cost supply onto the market amid an already tense global trading environment. The lack of local Chinese demand, amid that soft residential property market we've been speaking of, is prompting the rise in exports. Now, this has obviously got knock-on effects for iron ore, which is very significant for the Australian economy. The global container shipping industry is meanwhile soaring. Its profits rose to US $10 billion in the second quarter amid record volumes and higher rates for freight, and that's according to Bloomberg. Net income for the biggest container carriers actually doubled over the quarter, which is an indicator of how strong international goods trade market has been recently. Some of the increase in rates is due to the disruptions in the Red Sea, and volumes are partly due to importers stocking up amid concerns about strikes and new tariffs on Chinese goods.
All right, there is a bit going on. Now, after the show, Adam, there is a great interview coming up. We're speaking with McGrath-Nicol partner and head of advisory Matt Feehan and partner forensic Sarah Deedy. It's an interesting conversation because nearly 90% of Australian business leaders expect risk and security issues to get worse over the next 12 months. 90%. Isn't that it doesn't say a lot for the amount of confidence that's out there. There is a lot of wariness about some of these things. And so this interview takes a look at what those challenges are going to be, kind of from geopolitical threats, insider risk, cybersecurity, the lot. And the thing about the team at McGrath-Nicol know this space so well. They are great supporters of fear and greed. This interview is well worth a listen after the show.
Yeah, Michael, and as you list them, geopolitical threats, insider risk, cybersecurity, probably makes sense as to why 90% of Australian business leaders expect risk and security to get worse.
Yeah, indeed. So stick around. It is coming up after the show. In the meantime, though, we've got a lot to get through. We'll be back in a moment with the rest of the day's business news. Adam, Star Entertainment has been suspended from trading on the ASX following a scathing report from the regulator, which we discussed last week, and emergency weekend executive meetings.
It's been a very busy weekend for the Star company. After the Star received its copy of a review from the New South Wales regulator into its operations, it held off publishing its financial results and went into a trading halt last week. But it failed to post results yesterday morning, and the Australian Securities Exchange stepped in and suspended securities trading for falling behind the due date. There's not yet any date for when the suspension will lift. The Australian Financial Review reported that over the weekend, Star's executives were looking for ways to relax debt obligations, and that without a way to raise capital or move past this episode, it may face being put up for sale.
Now, I mentioned this one at the top of the show, Adam. REA Group halted trading yesterday after confirming speculation in the media over the weekend that it was considering a bid for UK-listed online property portal Rightmove. The deal, Adam, could be worth about $9 billion.
Yeah, Michael, this is a really interesting Australian business success story. REA Group said any offer would take the form of cash and shares, but has not yet approached or had discussions with Rightmove about the offer, and there's no guarantee one will be made. The UK's takeover rules mean the disclosure of a potential offer was required. REA said in a statement to the ASX that there are clear similarities between the two businesses, as both are leading portals in their local areas for residential listings and have aligned cultural values. Once trading resumed, shares fell 5.3%.
Oh, so these would be the put up or shut up rules.
That's right.
That we talked about when BHP was going after Anglo American and the very kind of strict timings that apply to all of these things. So once this is out there, once this is going on, the clock is ticking.
I love the plain language of the put up or shut up rule.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's no beating around the bush with that one, is there? It's just
Yeah, I wonder what they mean.
It's such a mystery. Now, Adam, home building looks like it's starting to bounce back with 14,797 new dwellings approved in July. That was up 10.4% and followed a slump the month before, according to the Bureau of Stats.
This feels like good news, Michael. That was the first month of the National Housing Accord, and there was a particularly significant lift in private dwellings, excluding houses, up 32%, with house approvals up 0.6%. Apartment figures can be lumpy when big projects get approval, so that's worth taking into account. And even with the full lift over July, the overall approvals rates remain 5.1%, still below the 5-year average, but it is a positive sign for more supply, with New South Wales recording an 8.5% lift in private sector house approvals and WA at its highest level since July 2021.
It was a busy day for the Bureau of Statistics yesterday because they also released business data for June showing company gross operating profits fell 5.3% while wages and salaries were up 0.7%.
Yeah, Michael, I reckon every day is a busy day for the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and as you know, I'm a big fan.
Oh, yes, you are. No, I that shouldn't have come with an ugh at the start, but it is more just the fact that I am very familiar with your fascination, obsession with stats and data, and just for you, the Bureau of Stats is basically a church.
Well, let's get to the altar of business data for June. It was an interesting and mixed picture for corporate profits. Dragging down the result was the mining sector, believe it or not, where profits fell 10.9% and wages slipped 0.1%. Construction had a fall in profits of 3.7%, while wages were up 1.8%. There were falls in profit for the vast majority of industries. Administrative and support services had a 7.8% jump in profits, and there was a rise for professional, scientific and technical services. The biggest rise in wages, Michael, were for electricity, gas, water and waste services.
Now, I know I said that we were done with politics earlier, but there's one more that's worth a mention. The Greens have made another election pitch, this time clearly geared towards renters. They are wanting to establish a National Renters Protection Authority to deal with tenancy disputes and to enforce new minimum rental standards.
Yeah, Michael, the authority would cost $200 million a year with 1,000 national staff members to investigate rental breaches, but also undertake advocacy, advice and education work for tenants. It would be able to levy fines of up to $18,780 against real estate agencies and instant fines of $3,756. The idea is that this authority would replace tribunals in states and territories that are regularly backed up with these kinds of cases. The Greens are also pushing for a 2-year rental freeze, 2% per annum caps for rent increases, and the right to have an option to access 5-year leases and guaranteed renewals.
Now, Adam, Australian vegan food chain Flav, launched by a former Zambrero CEO, has fallen over. The founders are basically saying that they are ahead of their time and that there isn't yet demand in the market for a, quote, mass market, scalable, fully vegan eatery.
Yeah, Michael, a letter to shareholders reported in the Financial Review shows co-founders told their investors last week that they'd not been paying themselves since January 2023 and are under a $10,000 monthly bill to stay in business, and they've been exploring options including shutting down local operations and discussing with potential international partners. But ultimately, the assessment was that the brand is slightly ahead of the current consumer habits. Just 2 years ago, the brand was announcing plans to open 300 stores amid the big wave of plant-based hype. It raised $900,000 in crowdfunding money in late 2022 and in total raised $7.5 million, but last year generated $1.2 million in revenue and reported a $2.4 million net loss.
All right, turning to international news now, and the US presidential election is going to be the biggest digital advertising blitz on record, with Kamala Harris planning a $370 million cross-media campaign over 3 months, and what she's calling the biggest online ad buy in the history of American politics.
Michael, I think these numbers are staggering. Harris's ad campaign will kick off on September 3 and run until November November 5 and will put a big chunk of her US $540 million worth of political donations to work. About US $200 million will go towards digital ads, US $170 million for television spots. The digital placements include Hulu, Roku, YouTube, Paramount, Spotify, and Pandora. There has been plenty written about her campaign's plan to harness Gen Z, with memes and viral content increasingly part of the political conversation. So there's little doubt that social media will be a big part of the push too. Michael, as I say that, thinking it's America, is it Gen Z or Gen Z?
Oh, it's probably Gen Z. I was just thinking about how much you're going to be at home in that meme kind of and viral content culture.
Swimming around in it. Michael, fortunately, it's not my decision to make this one, so I can steer clear.
No, but it's going to be spectacular to watch. Gosh, that's a lot of money, isn't it?
Yeah. Incredible business, the big business of politics in the US.
Oh, staggering. And the fact that there are so many donations and a lot of grassroots donations as well that are just being funneled into this massive advertising spend. It is really quite extraordinary.
It is, and you wonder too, does the right to vote versus the need to vote play into this, and the different dynamics in the American and Australian political system?
Oh, gosh, we're getting very deep considering how close we are to the end of the show here. Adam, it's getting very philosophical, isn't it?
That's right.
One last one to finish off on. Let's finish with a bit of Elon Musk, shall we?
Okay.
And X has officially gone offline in Brazil after owner Elon Musk chose not to comply with Brazil's laws. It has left millions of local users locked out of the social media platform.
Yeah, Michael, the Supreme Court in Brazil had ordered X to scrap anti-democratic and far-right voices from the service following major upheaval locally. Musk refused and missed a deadline to name a new local legal representative after closing its Brazilian office in August. Now locked out, Brazilians have been flocking to rival Blue Sky, according to The Guardian, which has racked up an extra 500,000 users over 2 days. This number may skyrocket, with X having had 22 million users in Brazil. There's been a backlash against the Brazilian Supreme Court, though, and it is likely that this story will continue to evolve.
Adam, up next is the Fear and Greed Daily interview with Matt Feehan and Sarah Deedy from McGrath-Nicol. It is all about what business leaders are expecting to happen over the next 12 months, what they're expecting in terms of risk and security issues, insider risk, geopolitical threats, cybersecurity, a whole bunch of other things. As I mentioned before, the team at McGrath-Nicol know this stuff so well, so it is a great, really insightful conversation, and McGrath-Nicol are great supporters of Fear and Greed. And also, Adam, keep an eye on the Fear and Greed playlist, because at midday today, a bonus episode of Ask Fear and Greed, where we answer listener questions, goes live at midday. And conveniently, today it's a question that you are answering.
Yes, it is.
And it is not a question about economics, and it is not a question about kind of the markets or anything. It is a question more about business, isn't it?
It's about life, Michael, and business.
Oh, it's a bit of Ask Adam. It's just Dear Auntie Adam. And anyway, it is well worth sticking around until midday just to hear that one. It is an absolute cracker. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Michael. And I hope being called Auntie Adam is not seen badly by anyone else, any other real aunties out there.
But it may stick. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of September, 2024. Make sure you're following the podcast, and please join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, TikTok and Facebook. I'm Michael Thompson. That was Fear and Greed. Have a great day.